You are listening to It's Midnight Somewhere with DJs Mistress McCutcheon and The Wasteland.
It's midnight somewhere. It's midnight. It's midnight somewhere. It's midnight.
Hi, this is Mistress McCutcheon coming to you from downtown Toronto. I'm accompanied by my DJ partner in crime, The Wasteland.
And we have a couple of special guests today coming to us from Boston.
Yep, I'm Tony, DJ Arcanus.
I'm Juliet, DJing Motia.
And both Juliet and Tony were the organizers of Convergence last year in Boston.
Yes, with two other people, with Amy Black and Jared Helfer.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to take on Convergence?
I mean...
Did you pour yourself some wine? Are you ready for this conversation?
Wine is 100% poured into the glass and partially done me already. Yep. So, I mean, Convergence involved threading a lot of needles between tradition and new stuff and trying to bring some like new blood into the scene, while at the same time honoring aesthetic, musical, historical, cultural factors that had been in play for 25 years. So it was a really onerous task that ended up being really, really rewarding. But it was definitely a lot of work, and it was, I guess, it just helped me recognize the diversity of how many different ways there are to be goth and how much really cool new music there is out there. And like, oh, I thought I knew all this stuff, but it turns out I was kind of a moron. So it ended up being really educational as well.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Neat. So if somebody were thinking of bringing Convergence to their town, what would you say is number one thing to watch out for? Like, what do you think was an easy mistake that you were like, oh man, I should have seen that coming?
Well, one of the things that we tried to be really good about was figure out your budget ahead of time and try your best to stick to it. We had a pretty good idea going in what we should bring in and what we were willing to pay in terms of like bands or, like vendor space, etc. We also got a really good deal with the venue. So there were a lot of costs that other committees might have to pay for that either we didn't have to, or we got like a super big discount on being able to do it. So we were able to kind of shift money around to like spend more money on bands than we would otherwise. And it was important to get the support of the community and enlist a lot of help from like friends and any favors that we could pull in.
Wow. Yeah, I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with asking for help, especially in such a grand undertaking. Plus, last year was kind of a special year in that who else were you up against as far as the bids for Convergence? Because for folks who don't know anything about Convergence, it's a festival that travels from city to city through North America and has been doing so for the past 20 plus years at this point.
So interestingly, what ended up happening was we heard a lot of rumors that other people were going to be putting up bids, but they never ended up materializing. So we were actually up against no Convergence at all. Although we had heard rumors that other cities had been about to try for Convergence. I don't know what happened to those bids or whether it had just been rumor, but actually like none of those bids came to light by the time the bids came up.
So you essentially saved Convergence by being the host.
I mean, or they knew that we were doing it and decided that we had a bigger budget or something. Maybe they knew. I don't really know.
I mean, one of these years, Booze Pants, which is no Convergence at all, might win, I suppose. I mean, that joke's been there for most of 2 decades. So
yeah.
That's so goth, like nihilistic, like, oh, or we have the choice of ending it all. And I really enjoy that.
I used to actually vote for Booze Pants once in a while because I was like, I want to like put in a vote, but I'm also impartial to what city it'll end up in because I'm just going to go regardless of where of which city has it. But then after a while, I was like, you know what? Like, I probably have a preference. I should pick the city that I actually want to go like visit.
Back to mistakes that we made, because I don't want to make it sound like we didn't make a whole bunch. I definitely feel like having the vendors so far from the venue like caused problems, especially with the earlier start times. I just feel like we tried to cram too much in, and even though the vendors in the venue were relatively close, like it wasn't close enough that you could go shopping and then like still see the first band. And I found
Right.
be a like I really wasn't thinking. I was thinking, oh, there magically won't be traffic in downtown Boston at like 6:30 on a Friday night. Like, sort of boneheaded of us,
Yeah,
I think.
I've heard that before though. No traffic in Boston. Nobody goes
Yeah.
there. Small town, no colleges at all.
So like we had a massive number of people come from New England for Convergence, and that was a double-edged sword with the hotel and the vendors, because if you have like a lot of support from your local community, they are going to sleep in their own beds. If they come in town for the entire weekend, it's likely that they have many friends in town who they can stay with and not pay to stay at the hotel. So having a lot of the attendees spread out throughout the city, they would have to make a special trip during the day to come to the hotel just to go to the vendor room. That's why we structured a lot of events at the hotel or near the hotel to try and draw people there. Because as much as there were plenty of out-of-town people, like it was probably like a pretty like close split between like out-of-town and local, if the locals didn't outnumber the out-of-town people. So you know, it's like, yay, lots of local people or like local New England people. Boo, they're not at the hotel where they can just go downstairs and like go shopping or go to like whatever event we have in like the con suite.
Gotcha. So just to step away from that and for our fans, beyond Convergence, Tony and Juliet also run Exiled Radio on Twitch. So did you guys did you DJ together before, in the before times, or was that just purely, hey, we're locked in the house, let's do this for fun?
So I've been doing Exiled Radio since 2009, and for many years I would basically produce 1 hour shows at home, and I would just DJ live into equipment and just record whatever my set is, and I would post once a week. I had a couple of people who were also DJs on staff who would submit shows like once a month or once every couple of weeks, whatever our arrangement was. But life got a bit busy after a while, and I started doing far fewer shows. And before the pandemic, I think the 2 years before that, I may have done like 3 or 4 shows total. And when the pandemic hit, immediately I was like, we should do this. Like the two of us should, do this through Exiled Radio. Like I kind of like left that to, do nothing for a while. And we were looking for a platform to do it. Originally, I was just going to do it through Facebook because it was just easier. But when I tried some test broadcasts, it would throttle the low ends of any song within 10 to 30 seconds. And this is before everybody else started DJing. This was like the first couple of days of the pandemic before everyone's like, I'm going to get on Facebook and start streaming. And a friend of mine was like, why don't you try Twitch? And I was like, I thought that was just a gaming platform. He's like, no, I have an account there. Like you should.
How little we all knew.
Yeah. So literally 30 minutes before our first show on Twitch, I created an account, downloaded OBS, and gave it a quick 2-minute test. I'm like, okay, this works. And it was a go. But many years ago, a friend of ours was bartending at local venue, and they were looking for people to come in and do nights in their kind of upstairs lounge space.
Probably many years ago. It's like 5 years ago.
Well, it's still many more than 2. So 5 years back. uh, I had an idea to do like not like typical like club music, just because there's just so many like pure dance nights out there. Like we can have some dance, but like I want to play other stuff. I want to play like like IDM and shoegaze and like neoclassical and like dark ambient. Whatever. Just not just like straight up like dance. And I feel like Juliet and I have very similar musical tastes for the most part. We have like a lot of overlap, but then we each specialize in a whole bunch of genres that the other person likes but isn't like an expert in. And I was like, in order for this night to work for what I want to do, I need somebody else to kind of bring in that expertise. And I was like, if you want to do this, like I will show you how to DJ and we can like have this night. So we started a night called Resonance at Once Somerville, and we did that for a few years. And so she was my co-DJ for like I think like year and a half, 2 years that went on. And since then, we've DJed together a bunch like at clubs doing dance nights and all that. And so it made sense that if we were going to do Exiled Radio here in the pandemic, that we both just, get on and have fun.
Oh, that's so great. And you're DJing now twice a week on Twitch because you're on Thursday nights and Sunday nights.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of like extra practice for me because we were really like after Resonance like stopped. Tony and I were mostly. I mean, we DJed together sometimes, but we also had a kid, so we were mostly going out and DJing like 1 gig a month each of us, like for like an hour or two or whatever. So now all of a sudden we're like we have to be sharp all the time and have to like not repeat songs, and it's a whole thing.
Actually, the not repeat songs thing, like I've logged on to lots of streams where like I hear a lot of the same music being played, stream after stream, and the not play the same songs or kind of like spread out repeating the same band if possible, so that it's not just like the same 30 bands every week or two. Like that's something that was really important to me when I started Exiled Radio. And I do this a lot when I play out too. Like I just want to play different artists and different songs all the time. I don't want to be playing the same music like every time I play out. If other DJs want to do that, like that's cool. That's their thing. But I feel like there's so much good music. There's so many good bands. I want to spread out that airtime to as many artists as possible.
You sound a lot like, you remind me a lot of myself when Laura and I started Prophecy. I think I said something very similar to Laura when we first started talking about it. And I remember her telling a friend that she felt a lot of pressure to play new. And I was like, no, not new, just not the same tired crap.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be new if it's a deep cut.
Yeah.
That's true. And it's definitely a debate we've had about what is the right amount to repeat a song, or because I've worked on not repeating stuff, but then I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit where it's like, well, maybe this is worth repeating because people are still learning this because it's something that's obscure or it's something that is brand new and people are just learning, oh, this just came out like last week. So giving people that exposure to a certain band. Because you're right, it's nice to have that variety and to give a bunch of different artists the airtime instead of playing the same 30 tunes every week.
Yep.
Yeah, but like, and again, there's a sort of eternal DJ question of how much are you there to educate and how much are you there to scratch an itch for someone?
Yeah.
And you have to sort of like thread that needle as well.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
Like I generally go with if somebody makes a request for a song, and even if we played it like last show, I will happily repeat it because somebody says I want to hear this song. If they say I want to hear this song like 3 or 4 shows in a row, I might be like, hey, can we give it a break for a week or two? Can I play something else for you? But generally, if someone asks for something, I'll play it. And it doesn't matter like if I played it recently. And yeah, sometimes we want to highlight a particular album or artist, and we're just like really into them. So they're just going to get a bit more rotation for a few shows, and that that's fine. Like we don't have any like hard rules. They're just guidelines that we go by, that we're free to break whenever we want.
Cool.
So, are there bands on your absolutely will not playlist?
Yes.
Dish, come on, more than yes.
So Combi Christ, just for their like blatant misogyny and flirtation with fascism.
They're not. They're on my list. Actually, somebody requested that from me. What, 2-3 weeks ago? I forget what it was.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm sorry, I don't play bands that are rumored to be white supremacists.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like the whole lot of them, like because like Sebastian Comore is also, not the nicest guy, and like, has spent a good number of tweets like making fun of trans people, I believe. Whatever it was, like, he kept doubling down, and it's just part of the whole like group of Combi Christ people, which bums me out because I really, really like the Icon of Coil project. That's like my favorite project of like all of those, and they're no longer on the laptop. Like, we don't play like Nachtmar. Like, I've met Thomas. I've played in this club. That was years ago. There's just too much Nazi shit,
Yeah.
Like I know like that he's looking at it from like a really like, oh, this is like a really like tongue-in-cheek thing. But I'm also sort of like sick of people like making Nazis tongue-in-cheek or whatever, because there are people who are taking it seriously.
There's a larger percentage of people who are taking it seriously than people who would even understand tongue-in-cheek Nazis, if that's even a thing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, Tony and I once attended this show, and we're getting so off topic now. We once attended this show where it was like a neo-folk show, and the bands that were playing were not Nazis, but the opening bands who wanted to be them like were. And it was really off, and it was like local too. It actually brought out some of the local talent, and we were like, wow, like they're among us. That's nice. Like, it was really uncomfortable and scary and revelatory, and it made me think even more like there is such a thing as like an incitement to violence. And again, I'm all for free speech, but I don't have to like to play Nazi music, and I don't. So
There you go. No, that's great. Yeah. I actually have a friend who every time he discovers he dabbles with industrial, and every time he finds a new band he likes, he messages me and he goes, "Are these people shit?"
Yeah.
And it's about 50-50.
There's enough music out there. Yeah, there's enough music out there that you don't have to support a shitty artist because they're shitty people.
Yep. Overall, like I just don't even like listen to most neo-folk anymore, because like it's just so filled with those kinds of people. And there are a lot of people who are listening to pagan folk and trying to like co-opt that now, which really pisses me off, because like I like pagan folk way more than I ever like neo-folk. So now like I have to like do research on like every freaking band like I buy that has goddamn ruins like in their on their like Bandcamp page or whatever.
They're doing that to all of paganism. I can't even buy a crystal nowadays. It's really upsetting.
Yeah. Like it sucks that on Bandcamp you can't actually remove releases that you've purchased. You can hide them so that other people can't see that that you own those releases. So I actually messaged Bandcamp and said, "Hey, can you remove like all of the releases that I've purchased from this artist? Like, I don't want my money back. I didn't know anything about this person when I had, paid for the music, like fair is fair. I just don't want someone to go to this artist's page and see that like I supported them by paying money, even if like they go to my page and it's not there." And like somebody from support had to like go on the back end and like delete like all these releases for me. I was like, thank you. But like you can't just like easily remove them on Bandcamp.
That's pretty amazing though that they went there and did that for you though. Another reason why we love Bandcamp.
Like, we spend a lot of money on Bandcamp every month. Like,
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, I was listening to one of your shows where you guys were like, "Oh yeah, like after our Friday show, we have like an hour to like buy stuff on Bandcamp, or 2 hours, or whatever that small window is." Because there are a lot of times when I cut out early on your shows. It's because I have to go listen to stuff on Bandcamp before 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, that's a good reason.
But that was definitely,
I support that reasoning. That's a good reason to bail out. That's cool.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest points for us to be on Fridays, because Friday's certainly a busy night to be streaming. But at the same time, we wanted to be able to feature artists available on Bandcamp and say, yeah, if you like this, go and directly support that artist. Yeah. Although every night, Thursday nights are a pretty busy night to be streaming, and there's at least somebody DJing on Twitch every night of the week. And the upside of this pandemic, with everybody being home, is that we've been able to tune in to DJs all over the world. And this is where it's really fortunate and lovely to be able to tune into what's happening in your neck of the woods on Thursdays and Sunday nights.
Oh, we really appreciate you tuning in and listening.
And also having us here today.
Yes.
Thank you for that as well.
Well, I mean, your guys' stream, I think, is in part what got Laura and I moving towards Twitch.
Oh, holy crap. I didn't even know that. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's really wow.
Yeah.
Because you were one of the earlier broadcasters on Twitch, and we really like what you do because you are playing very interesting music. So, and I think that helped us get over the hump, because earlier this year we had a prophecy scheduled for April 9th. I have a stack of flyers still sitting here with that date. And we were scheduled to DJ and said, well, we're not doing it in a venue, but why can't we do it online? And again, it was a matter of getting over that learning curve and putting on OBS, installing OBS onto our machines and hooking things up and going, okay, let's see if we can do this.
And then figuring out how to do it from two separate locations. That was the hardest hurdle.
So I remember tuning in to that first one, and you guys were like trying to like switch between DJs, and we were all like refreshing and being like, oh, there's like no video or anything, and it was just this huge learning curve for people. And like there were so many people who have streams where they have multiple DJs, and at first everyone's just like, how are we gonna do it so it's seamless? And now it seems like everyone has the hang of it, but it took a while to get there. And I'm not sure if the technology was there where you could have stream keys for everybody, or if that was a thing that was created once there was all this demand on Twitch to be able to make it easier to switch between people.
I think it was there already, because there were streams with gamers that would have multiple people playing the same game.
Got it.
Being fed in at the same time from different locations. So it was just a matter for us of the learning curve. And credit to Justin for kicking us in the ass in the right direction.
Not to like pat us all on the back, but I mean, I don't know if you guys are as old as I am, but I think that it's been so good, like intergenerationally, for us to like learn to use a platform like Twitch and learn like streaming stuff, because I think that like a lot of people like 10, 20 years younger than I am, at least, for them, it's a lot more like intuitive and natural. And I think it's cool that we sort of were, I mean, the pandemic isn't cool, but I think it's kind of cool how we were forced to kind of learn that language and learn that way of being and that paradigm.
Yeah. And I mean, but then again, this kind of ties back to Convergence, because Convergence was a festival of net goths. And some of us that were in those earlier Convergence committees and went to those early Convergences, we were the first little crew of goths who adopted the internet and started all those groups. And there was alt.gothic and using IRC and talking to other people and finding out about what was going on in scenes all over the place. Yeah. So I think it was kind of a good, I think the thinking was already there for a lot of us to kind of parlay into this. Because yes, it's some of us old farts are figuring out our technology and may not be as quick with it as some younger folks are. But yeah, I mean, it's been great to be brought together, and the connections that are happening at this time have been really good. Being able to see what other people are doing and check in on others and getting to meet others, it has been a really wonderful experience during this time.
So what we're doing now on Twitch, where we're broadcasting live. This was sort of what I wanted to do with Exiled Radio when I first started it. I just looked up when Twitch launched, and it's 2011. So it's 2 years after I started doing Exiled Radio. At first, I was like, what if I find a way to have people like log into like a Linux box or whatever, like in my home, like I was like, I'm going to run my own server and it was too much. Like I hate being a Linux admin. So once I put some thought into it, I was like, nope, I'm just going to like record this and like, put this up and kind of have a player. So once we started broadcasting on Twitch earlier in the year, I was like, this was kind of like the original concept where there would be like a live audience and not just me like, recording my stuff live and then posting it without, any sort of edits. And it's been great. Like we have a community going and I've met a lot of new people through that. And there are many people who have a lot of social anxiety about going out, but they really, really love music and they just want to listen at home or dance at home by themselves. And now they can, like you said, like log into a stream any night, any day of the week and find music that they like. I can listen to like European streams like during the day at work because they're 6-7 hours ahead. Like it's great.
Yeah, some of the stuff coming out of the UK and Germany and being able to tune in those shows in the afternoon has been very cool.
And you don't have to buy a plane ticket to fly all the way.
Right.
Do you think you're going to keep it up when things normalize, whenever that may be?
Our plan is to, and we have lots of plans and also a toddler, so things change. But our plan is to, once the world has returned to something like normal, at least do once a week and try to see if we can keep that going. I mean, maybe the whole atmosphere will change and it will no longer be welcome, but maybe we can carry the like better parts of the pandemic forward, like the parts that we learned from forward, and people will actually like want to keep going with it, which would be really cool for us. I hope that our audience agrees.
Yeah, I think that the landscape has already changed and there'll definitely be people who will just drop out and be like, great, now I can like, go out and go to clubs again. But I think the idea has been put into people's heads that you can listen to music that you like, whether it's Twitch or Mixcloud or wherever online, and have a community around that. And I think that there'll still be people tuning in. So we're at least going to, give it a shot and see where that goes. As a footnote, we planned, I think, all of Convergence while Juliet was pregnant, and then like we had a kid. So like not only did our committee have to do that, but the two of us also had to, be parents, like brand new parents, while putting on a show for a weekend, which was crazy.
Somewhere there are pictures Adrian hates from Diary of Dreams, like holding my baby, which is best thing like, ever.
I was just going to say, you guys did a Convergence on hard mode then, didn't you?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the Boston traffic was still more challenging than the toddler.
Yeah, we flew my mom out for 2 weeks, and she came with us to the hotels like on at least Saturday, if not Saturday and Sunday, to like help watch the baby while we were doing stuff in the hotel. So she was invaluable that weekend. It would have been impossible to.
She was like the 5th committee member.
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually,
Yeah.
we have a couple of extra committee badges. We should give her one.
Yeah, we absolutely should.
So what I wanted to also ask is about just the general Boston area and what the scene is like there, because your community through Exiled isn't just the Boston area. There are a lot of folks that are local, but how would you describe your community?
I think we have a pretty strong community. It's hard to say. Like, there's a lot of stuff is closed down now, and we don't know in what form it's going to return because bars and clubs are suffering right now. But before the lockdown, we had a situation where we didn't have any like huge nights, but we had moderate sized nights, and we pretty much had things going on most nights of the week. If like between like Boston and in New Hampshire, which is drivable from us, and Rhode Island. You could pretty much like any weekend night find a gothy thing to do, and then like also Mondays. And then when was the cellar door? Was it Tuesday, Tony, or was it Thursday? I know they switched it.
Thursday.
Thursday.
It bounced around between Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. But yeah, like if you were to take Boston as the central point in New England and basically draw a 2-hour radius around Boston, you could hit Portland, Maine. You could hit all of Rhode Island. You can get out to Western Mass, Southern New Hampshire, Connecticut. So there were a lot of nights that you could go to if you were willing to drive up to 2 hours away, which there were a lot of people who do, or at least did. There was I think a monthly night up in Burlington, but that's like 4 hours away or something. That's too far. But almost every night of the week, there was something depending on like the, which week of the month it was, because there were a lot of monthlies. But most of the nights of the week were covered at least by a monthly, if not a weekly. So there was a good amount of clubs going on here in New England, and Boston definitely had a pretty thriving scene. And like Juliet said, there was probably like 2 like fairly big nights where they had a few hundred people, but then like the other nights were much smaller but had really strong, loyal supporters. We just had a couple of clubs permanently close here, which is a really big bummer. So I don't know what's going to happen like once the pandemic is over enough that clubs can open again, because I don't know if the promoters will look for new places or just say they're done.
The criticism that we have of the Boston scene perpetually is that even though people will go to club nights, they tend to not go to shows as much. And so they'll go to your club night and they'll dance to this band and be so obsessed with this band, but like not obsessed enough to go to their show the next week, which was also something that we were trying very hard to like prevent from repeating itself when we did Convergence. But that's one of the things that I wish more for the Boston scene. Like I wish that they would just like put their money where their mouth is as far as like actually supporting the bands directly and not just swirling around on the dance floor when they like what one of us spins. That
sounds almost exactly the opposite of Toronto.
Oh my gosh.
Every time you go to a show, it's packed. And then your club night really depends on where it falls in the calendar.
Wow.
That's really interesting.
It is. It really is, because I was getting Facebook memories of happier times, Laura, the other day from when we did the after party for Boy Harsher.
Oh, yeah.
That was a year ago yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
And we did an after party for Boy Harsher, and since the show was packed, a bunch of people came over, and the bar, needless to say, wasn't ready. It was the first time we played at this bar, and the bar was dry by the end of the night.
Yeah, they drank the bar dry, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah, there was like 3 sips of whiskey and some ice left.
Nice.
Yeah. It's funny because, people don't go to club nights in Toronto unless there's like the Friday and Saturday are the stronghold. Thursday nights maybe, but they're not. It's not a sustainable option to do every week. And any other night that it tries to be a weekly running from Sunday to Thursday, it's really, really difficult. So this is where the beauty of the live stream comes, because you can tune in at any time and not have to worry about catching a bus to get home or whatever.
Or pants.
So, because or you don't have to even put pants on. Exactly.
Yes, that's another reason. We didn't mention this. So Boston has some quaint, archaic blue laws that still exist from, I don't know, the oldie timies. And because of that, a lot of our bars close super early. And I think it's okay. Like it's tempting for people to go out even on a weeknight for a club night, because I know it's over at midnight or 1. So it's like a short-term commitment. And so it's not like, we feel pressured to be up till 4. You can kind of still crawl into work the next morning. So that does, like, it makes it harder and easier at the same time to have like a club night. But in some ways you're like, okay, like I'm only going out for a couple of hours, like whatever. Okay, I'll go have a few drinks, I'll dance. And so if it's less of a commitment, I think it might lead to why we have like more of a regular, like devoted crowd, because they can still be functional at work the next morning.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because I knew that Boston had an early last call. I thought last call is at 2, but then various venues
Yeah.
have different times of when they have a curfew, or they have different times of closing, or they have a curfew, which
Yeah.
I discovered at Convergence because I didn't realize I had to stop at 1:30.
Yeah. So the 2 o'clock is like, those are our special bars. Like most of them do not do that.
Oh, I see.
Wow.
Okay.
Those are the exceptions. Those
So
are like, the 4 o'clocks in other cities, or the nevers in other cities.
so way back at Convergence 2, I was on committee for that. In Cambridge, clubs used to be 18 plus. They bumped it up to 19 plus like a week or two before Convergence 2. So all the people who came who were 18 suddenly couldn't get in that weekend. Or we tried to sneak them in or something. I don't really remember, but it was a problem.
Oh, wow.
And around that time, Cambridge also made Cambridge was 1 a.m. Boston was 2 a.m. on I think Boston was 2 a.m. if you want to be open till 2 a.m., but your liquor license might only be until 1 a.m. And if your liquor license is only until 1 a.m., you're just not going to be open that last hour where all you can serve is like water and soda. So that's part of the disconnect in Boston. But eventually, like Cambridge became 2 a.m. Thursday through Sunday. Thursday through Saturday, or Thursday through Sunday. It was basically like the weekend plus Thursday, whatever. I don't know what they consider Thursday. I think that might still be the case today. So nights in Cambridge are probably still open till 1 a.m. unless it's a weekend night. And then Boston, it depends. Like, because Wonder Bar, where Ceremony used to be, their furniture was packed up just this week. They're gone. That's where we had the Monday after party for Convergence.
That's the weekly Monday. It's
Yeah.
and it really does have a decent attendance for being a Monday night. And so like there are a lot of people who are very upset and just, I mean, I'm sure that the head DJ is already like figuring it out.
Yeah.
Like shout out to James, who is a beast.
Yeah. But Ceremony, would run till 1 o'clock, and even though Wonder Bar had a liquor license that went till 2, there would only be a handful of nights where it was like, oh, we're having like a special night where it's going to go till 2 a.m. where like that night was actually open till 2. Otherwise, like by 1 a.m., like a lot of people would cut out on a regular night, so there wasn't a point in opening till 2. So sometimes it's voluntary that nights close at 1 in Boston, and sometimes it's the clubs don't want to be open past 1 o'clock because they can't sell liquor.
That's interesting because, yeah, we have last call at 2, but a bar will generally stay open until about 2:30 or sometimes 3 to give people that opportunity to finish their drinks so that it's not that, okay, hard stop 2 and now get out. But yeah, also because I'm wondering with Boston because the transit stops running at a certain time.
Yeah, so public transit, like if you want to catch the last bus or train, it's around 1 o'clock. I think around like 12:50 is when it leaves, whatever the main station is going in the direction that it's going. And so depending on how far out you are from the station that you want to catch, you may have until like 1:10, 1:15, whenever it rolls by. There was for a while a program that had buses, certain buses, including one of the ones that run outside our like down the street from our house, run until 2 or 3 a.m. And that was amazing when they had that. But, budget cuts meant that cool things were going away. And so they took those options out. The Boston had 2 things against it for having like the subway run all night. One is that since Boston is, I believe, the first subway in America, we only have 1 track for each line, and in order for them to do maintenance, they have to like pull trains into like a little side track, and there isn't a whole lot of room, so they don't really like doing that. That's why they close down so they can do maintenance at between basically like 12 something and 6 o'clock in the morning. And the other thing is the taxi union. I mean, taxi unions, hate the subway and they hate, ride shares and everything. And we have like the ridiculous medallion system here. And so there's a limited number of taxis, and they basically have like a monopoly on late night transportation. And so, they want all the business from people coming out of bars and clubs late at night because they have no other option. They can drive drunk, they can try and walk home, or they can get a cab.
I would like to point out it happens, and I really wish that all my people in Boston would not drink and drive. I swear, hand to God, after this pandemic is over, obviously I haven't had another person in my car who is in my family since the pandemic started, but I will give you all rides home. I promise. Please do not drink and drive.
Yeah, I was going to say the medallion system is similar in New York, where there's a limited amount and the licensed taxis as far as the late night monopoly. But I was also going to say, because it's funny with New York back when, because I know DJing, the club would close at 4, and I'd be lucky if I could catch a cab to go out back home to Queens because their shifts would change at 5 a.m. So did they really actually want to go all the way out to Queens? Maybe not, and then they would refuse me and take off, or it'd be difficult to stand out in the curb at the Bowery and in front of where CB's used to be and try to catch something. But yeah, and also I've definitely seen evidence of folks who would have the audacity to drive home drunk between Philly and Wilmington, Delaware, because Wilmington's only a half an hour outside of Philly. You could tell who was driving drunk because everybody was driving really slowly. And you're like, oh shit, this is not good.
Like,
people are
lights are off, or like they're not using their blinkers. Like, it's really obvious.
It's very obvious, and it's terrifying. And there's absolutely no reason for that in this day and age, that anybody would even dream of doing that.
Yeah. Speaking about like the shortcomings of the Boston scene, I really wish that situation were not so common.
So, in lighter topics, what's something you guys are crazy about musically that we can maybe drop in?
Yeah, what's new and exciting that you're crazy about right now that you want to recommend to folks?
Am I just gonna say the new Alchemazotes album, which we've been spinning the hell out of? Tony, do you want to say more about that?
That was going to be like my first pick as well. Like it's just like the best thing that I've heard in a while. It's like every track is a banger, pretty much.
It's like power noise / tribal, like with, I don't know, how else would you describe what they do for people who don't know who they are?
Like tribal industrial is like that I think is probably the closest.
So are we talking tribal industrial closer to like a Varden Sphere, or?
It's not quite as organic sounding as Varden Sphere or This Mortal Mina. It's a little more techno, a little more upbeat, but just as infectious, just as like hypnotic, and so it kind of scratches your meditative and your dance itch at the same time. And every track does that. So it's really hard. Like, we did a show a couple weeks ago right after the album came out, and it was really hard to just like not play the whole album and make that the show. We were just so obsessed with it that day. We played like a track from that album in each of our last 3 shows, I think. And we will continue to do so because it's really, really good.
Let's drop a track.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Which track do you think, Tony? Do we want Math Mayhem or?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Merciful Father, we offer our lives and our work for you in gratitude for the sacrifice of your only Son.
So when we were talking about songs that we end up playing, we kind of didn't really talk about songs that like we are also obsessed with playing. Like I, Juliet, am obsessed with playing. That Tony's like, please don't play that again. You play the song too much. But Crystal Geometry has a song called Agent Orange, which has a wonderful fuck Trump sample like in it, and it is incredible and upbeat and angry. And I don't know how political you get on this thing, but it's a really rad song, and we do play it a lot on our show.
Us political? Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
My clothing line did design a shirt that says "Goth is political" that you did buy, Juliet. So I have no problem with having a song with a "fuck Trump" sample in it. That sounds wonderful.
What you do on this show, like whether that's separate from like.
Oh no. We did a new music podcast a couple of weeks back, and we dropped in that new clipping track with where it just flat out says Donald Trump is a white supremacist, full stop. So we're not shy.
Radical left criminals, anarchists. Fuck Trump. Radical left-wing groups, arsonists. Fuck Trump. Radical left criminals, anarchists. Fuck Trump. Radical left-wing groups, arsonists. Fuck Trump. Radical left criminals.
also think that's something that we do on Exiled that I don't know. It's we've been, I'm not really sure how successful it is, although people have noticed. We've been trying to feature more female artists as well. So I was trying to think of new things. Like there's a lot of amazing new female artists we've been featuring.
My favorite new female artist, like no question, is Bedless Bones. They're a band out of Estonia. Who knew Estonia made music like this? But it's like a really like great blend of like both like goth and industrial, and there are times when she sings in kind of like an ethereal-ish sort of way over industrial beat. It's like really really good, and the people who have remixed their material just like top notch.
The
been playing Witch of the Vale too, who are from Scotland. That's like an also amazing female fronted band, and like much more like synth poppy gothy.
The first page was the color of blood. It felt good to see it for myself. I'd heard of lies before, nothing like this, no. The world will forget your sins in time. Pray to this new voice inside your head when they ask you what it says. Chew the glass and swallow. Their weapons can't hurt you now. Run out of ways to say. Run out of reasons to stay. Who will teach me how to lie to myself to stay safe? Run out of gods to blame. Run out of reasons to crave. Who will teach me how to lie to myself? The last days were the color of blood. It felt good to see it to the end. I've heard that voice before, nothing like this, though. The world will forget your sins in time. This new death wish, now I've come alive. Now I notice when you lie. Chew the glass and swallow. Your weapons can't hurt me now. Run out of ways to say. Run out of reasons to stay. Who will teach me how to lie to myself to stay safe? Run out of gods to blame. Run out of reasons to crave. Who will teach me how to lie to myself to stay sane? Run out of gods to blame. Run out of reasons to crave. Who will teach me how to lie to myself to stay safe? The world will forget your sins in time.
What I wanted to ask is when we get to a point where we don't know what normal is going to be like on the other side of this, but in a time when we can travel again, and if folks were to visit Boston, because Boston's a really pretty architecturally is a really beautiful city, and there's a lot of gorgeous historical points of interest. What point would you what particular site would you advise people that they need to see if they happen to be in Boston? that is of like gothy interest, because there's so many gorgeous like cemeteries and architecturally it's a very pretty city.
I'd go take a real tour, like at Mount Auburn Cemetery. They give like real guided tours. It's this beautiful historical cemetery, and it's been around forever. The tombstones are gorgeous. There's like also like crazy beautiful wildlife, it's like basically a little arboretum in there, and also the person who gives most of the the people, one of the people who gives most of the tours and is in charge of a lot of the stuff there is actually a goth, and so it's a very goth friendly like location. You can't do photo shoots there though. That's the one thing. They don't let you do photo shoots because there's so many rules, because it's such a beautiful historical place.
Yeah, they don't want people like lying down or like touching the markers or anything like that. I definitely have pictures from photo shoots and picnics and stuff like that in there. But that was years and years and years ago.
One from me back in 2013. That was not years and years ago. I mean, it was 7 years ago and not 5, so maybe it is years and years ago.
Who knows? I mean, how are we already in the middle of October?
It's the 20th week of March.
Accurate.
What else, Tony? Like for Boston?
Yeah, like if a person has time, like going out to Mount Auburn, which is at the edge of Cambridge and Watertown, you have to take a little bus from Harvard Square to get to, is definitely like a beautiful walk if you have time and the weather is cooperative. There's a lot of just like nice, like touristy, like old architecture if you're into that. Like like
a lot of really cool stuff is kind of outside of the city. Like you could go visit Hammond Castle, which is like, is that actually New Hampshire or is that still Massachusetts?
No, that's in Marblehead.
Yeah. So
that's Massachusetts. That's up the coast, a little bit past Salem. So
guy decided he wanted to build a castle, and it's this big, scary looking gothy castle that is just there. That was this old rich guy's home, and now it's a place you can tour. It's beautiful.
So John Hammond, the guy who invented ham radios, that's his old home. He was wealthy from whatever, and he went shopping for cheap castle parts in Europe because people were just selling off parts of castles. And so he would go to Europe and he'd be like, I would like this wall, or I would like this tower, or whatever it was. And he would buy it and have it shipped to Marblehead, and he cobbled together his own castle, like north of Boston. It's beautiful. They have like a Halloween, well, probably not this year, but they usually have a Halloween thing there where you can kind of go through parts of the castle and there'd be people kind of jumping out at you. You can just go there and visit during the summer on the weekends. I DJ'd a friend's wedding there. Was it 2 years ago now? And so that was fun to be able to go into parts of the castle I wasn't allowed to go into, as just a regular tourist. And it's really nice. It's nice and fun. And most people don't know that there's this like Franken Castle that's like just north of Boston.
Yeah, it's just there. It's really beautiful.
I'm there's an image coming into my head. Oh, he just got some old castle parts. And it's like, I'm imagining like a shop, just like an old auto parts shop, except it's castle parts.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean,
how bizarre.
Rich people. I mean, that's how you get any good architecture though, right? Like rich person had a concept and like.
Sure.
There's a guy named Phineas Gage, who had like a spike driven through his head, or he had an accident where like a railroad spike went through his head. You can see his skull here in Boston.
See, that's the content Laura wanted.
This is, I just knew it took a little digging. That's all. Yeah, because I didn't know this stuff last time I was visiting Boston. So
I know the Phineas Gage story. It's a pretty really interesting one.
Yeah.
So the story, he has a spike driven through his skull because of an accident?
Yeah. He was like a railway worker or something, and he had a spike driven through his skull, and it completely he survived, and it completely changed his personality. And so it drove a lot of kind of early studies of how the brain makes you. Yeah, as of course very brutal, but that's how all things were back then. Like, oh look, if I destroy this part of the brain, look what happened.
Yeah, so you
Amazing.
can see it at the Warren Museum in Boston. And it's either like a few dollars to get in, or it might be free. But it's really cheap. You can go downtown and go check out Phineas Gage's skull.
I didn't even know that, Tony. You haven't shown me that. You've been holding out on me.
It was on our Convergence website.
She was busy giving birth. Leave her alone.
Oh man. There's also a library here that has a book that is bound in human skin, but I don't believe you can see it. I know you have to like ask for like special permission, but then like you have to have like some reason other than like, hey, I just really want to see this because like that seems really cool. And they usually don't like allow people to actually see this artifact anymore. But it's this like library full of like rare books, and it's at the Boston Athenaeum.
Athenaeum?
Yep.
Yeah.
That one.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, that's also like downtown. Actually, it's near Park Street, which is where we were gonna take our like fun Convergence group photo at Edgar Allan Poe statue that I didn't even know was downtown until like someone like brought it up, and we're like, wow, that would be a great place to take this photo. Except that there ended up being like an AIDS walk or cancer walk that day, where the start and finish line was actually Boston Common, which is where this statue is. So that's why the group photo ended up being at the hotel, because there was no way that anyone could go down into this area, because there were
Oh, sure.
like tens, if not 100,000 people like down there.
Stupid cancer.
Like all the roads were blocked off. Everyone had to, be crowded on the subway. And can you imagine like, 100, 200 goths like packed into like subway trains in like the beginning of summer going down there and back? Like that'd be terrible.
For everybody. Literally for everybody. Nobody would be happy.
No, they would not. Wow, I thank you both so much for taking the time to join us to do this podcast. It's been great to just catch up and chat. And again, it's just funny because I think I've had an impression of Boston as just being a really square kind of place, because it's a big college town, and finding alternative people and finding interesting things to do and things of a gothy nature, and finding all that stuff took a bit of digging. And the more digging that I have done and the more visits I've had to Boston, I've been able to meet a lot of really wonderful people, and there is a really nice community there. And again, we've both been enjoying your stream on Thursdays and Sundays.
It's possible. Thank you for all of your kind words. Thank you for your amazing stream.
Yeah, like it's been great entertainment like on Friday nights. And unfortunately, a lot of times like I'm not on the chat because we get an Amazon fresh delivery every other Friday. So I put your podcast on my phone and I just like stick it near the sink where like, we're like cleaning everything. So you guys are on, but I can't like sit there and like type until after I'm done, when I can like go to my computer and just be like, okay, I'm done washing. But you guys have been like great entertainment for us on Friday nights.
Oh, thank you.
Your own podcast helps me, not podcast, Twitchcast helps me with transit when I'm coming home from work on those nights. I can't even tell you how many times my phone batteries died on the way home. Which is why I don't chat much, because it's like my phone's already on the ropes from being at work all day, and then it's just like, all right, it's dead, but at least I got to hear some new stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think. The Tempers album is something I've bought because you played it.
Oh yeah, that was a great album. I heard you play. Oh man, what was it? It was something that I heard someone else play, and then I went and bought it because I liked it so much. And then a couple of shows later, I heard you play it, and I didn't know if like if you had heard it from someone else or if you knew this band beforehand. And I just happened to like hear it because now I knew the song. Damn it, I'm gonna find this album. Figure Study.
Yes.
I mean, like it's an old album, but like I didn't discover it until a couple months ago because I heard somebody else play it, and I was like, damn, this is so good. And I checked it out. I'm like, I definitely like this album. And bought it immediately.
Yes, the song "Wait," because I've mixed that in with Kaelin Mikla because the two songs work together really well, and I was figuring out how to mix them together. So, but yeah, learning music from others has been really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, they've gotten some pretty heavy rotation on our shows too.
All right, friends, if you like what you've heard, please be sure to like and share this podcast with others. And you can follow us on Facebook at It's Midnight Somewhere. And we are streaming on Twitch Friday nights. It's either Psalms or Prophecy at twitch.tv/prophecy_online. Be sure to catch Exiled Radio on twitch.tv on Thursday and Sunday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'd like to thank Miriam Green for the artwork for our logo, as well as Robin Bright for our theme music, and of course our producer, Justin Minister, who is ever patient with me because sometimes I expect him to read my mind. Thanks for listening.
It's midnight somewhere. It's midnight. It's midnight somewhere. It's midnight.
This podcast was almost called Shadowcast, but then we decided that sounded like a magic card.